From New York, Shaun King. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody. As you all know, the trial of Amber Guyger, the Dallas police officer who shot and killed Botham Jean, that trial is fully underway. The trial itself has actually ended. Closing arguments were yesterday, and the jury has already started their deliberations. They started yesterday. They'll continue again today. Part of us thought that if they didn't come back with an immediate verdict, that would not be a good thing, that if they came back quickly with a guilty verdict, then we'd feel good about it, but that it's taking a while, I think maybe benefits the defense. In case you didn't know, if any of our listeners just on the off chance weren't clear, Amber Guyger barged into Botham Jean's home, claiming that she thought it was her own apartment. She then proceeded to shoot and kill him as he sat on the couch in his pajamas eating ice cream. He had no idea who she was or what she was doing. They had never met. They didn't know each other. I spent yesterday, or Sunday rather, in Dallas with Botham's family as we celebrated what would have been his 28th birthday. And Botham really was a star. He was a star in his own family. He was a star at his college. He was a star in his church. He was a star on his job. Everywhere he went, he was a magnet for good people and goodwill. Over and over again, we heard from people on Sunday who said that he was literally the nicest, most gregarious, good-hearted man they knew. And many of our listeners may not know this, but Botham's mother used to work for the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. She was actually a high-ranking executive in their national government. And the former Prime Minister was with us on Sunday, and he expressed his grief, and it was a devastating moment, that his country sent one of their best sons to the United States only for him to be shot and killed in the prime of his youth. We learned that Botham, and I'd never heard this before, actually dreamed of one day returning to St. Lucia and even becoming prime minister himself one day. He had major political aspirations. And I want us to think about that for a moment. How many presidents, prime ministers, how many CEOs and civil rights leaders, how many husbands and fathers, how many doctors and lawyers have we lost in this country to gun violence and police brutality? I think we're going to get a verdict later today. And for a few minutes, I'd like to break down what I think is happening this morning. The prosecution did an amazing job. First, rarely do police ever even go to trial. But when they do, prosecutors normally phone it in and half-heartedly lead the trial, making it clear that they had no real interest in getting a conviction. And none of us felt this way in this trial. The prosecutors pushed hard. They were thorough and smart, and Amber Guyger's defense hardly put up a fight. And they don't have anything. She did it. She shot and killed a man in his own home. She refused to provide him any first aid and instead started texting her lover for advice while he was literally bleeding out on the floor next to her. On Sunday evening, when I spoke with Botham's parents and attorneys, we all felt great about the case. It was open and shut, and the prosecution nailed it. When I spoke to Attorney Lee Merritt yesterday, we said that if the trial had 100 battles, the prosecution literally won all 100 of them. It was 100-0. But yesterday, something horrible happened that I never saw coming. And I'm not sure the prosecution saw it coming. But the judge gave the jury the worst possible set of instructions that we ever could have imagined. She said that Amber Guyger was to be protected by the Texas version of the Stand Your Ground law. And I could hardly believe it. It's called the Castle Doctrine. And that word castle literally stands for your home. The law states that if someone intrudes into your space, your home or your car, that you have the right to use lethal force to protect yourself as an intruder. But how in the hell are they claiming that the Castle Doctrine applies when this woman walked right into a black man's home and shot and killed him in his living room?
not her
This
castle.
it can't stand. It's not her castle, not at all, and it can't stand. And I'll be honest with you, unless the judge changes these instructions or gives them a different interpretation, this jury is in a very bad spot. I spent the night last night searching case law and could not find another example of someone being allowed to stand their ground in someone else's home. It's absurd. If this stands, I will immediately advise the family and their attorneys to appeal this ruling up to the district court and even to the Supreme Court if necessary. What it tells me is this, and I've said this on our show for years, America's laws were written for one reason and one reason alone. They were written to protect white people and white power. They damn sure weren't written to protect Philando Castile or Botham or Marissa Alexander. And of course, I'm following this case closely. I'm hoping and praying for the best, but I am nervous and have a lot of dread for what will happen today. I thought we had this one, and we still might, but I am definitely worried that the ruling yesterday killed the case. I'll close with this thought. The laws are bad, and we're losing cases, good cases, because we're fighting against bad laws. We must figure out how to change and fight those laws. Take care, everybody.
I thought that I read this wrong. I thought that I heard it wrong yesterday. I could not believe that this and a black female judge at the head of this case deciding that, in terms of what went on in her courtroom, that this just came, and it seemed to me, Shaun, that it came out of nowhere.
It's funny that you say that, Sybil, because when I heard it yesterday morning, and I actually also thought I misheard it. I thought somebody was saying that they were just talking about it.
Right.
When I finally understood that she gave the jury those instructions, I couldn't. It took me a few hours to believe it. Actually, I had to double and triple check with people who were in the room, and that's what she told them, and it shocked the hell out of everybody. I still can't believe it. And
in the closing,
Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
In the closing arguments, no one said that the castle rule doesn't apply because she wasn't in her castle.
Well, you know what? I don't think that the prosecution believed it was going to apply here.
But that was her whole argument that it was self-defense. And the castle rule, and she was trying to apply the castle rule.
Well, I don't think that the prosecution believed that stand your ground would apply in this case. And, I don't know if they believed it or not. I know I'm surprised that she gave those instructions. And, again, it makes getting a guilty verdict, just like we see in most police brutality cases. This is uniquely different, but it makes it almost impossible. Like, how can you, if that law applies to her in this case, it is basically giving police permission,
but it doesn't,
or anybody permission.
But it
to
doesn't.
Walk
she wasn't
into
in her
your home
castle.
Right? How does that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever.
That's what he's saying. That's what Shaun is saying.
So, Shaun, do you think there'll be a hung jury? And if there is a hung jury, do you think she'll get a retrial?
I think so. I think that I still have a tiny sliver of hope that a guilty verdict is possible, and a hung jury would certainly be better than a not guilty verdict. And I've talked to prosecutors in this case. I think they would try it again if they get a hung jury. I believe so.
Okay.
We'll see.
Or a guilty verdict and a reduced sentence.
And the possibility of manslaughter as opposed to murder, yeah.
Yep.
That's also thrown out there.
Oh.